Leviticus chapter 19, verse 19. You shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your livestock breed with another kind. You shall not sow your field with mixed seed, nor shall a garment of mixed linen and wool come upon you. Now, for many years, I have been puzzled about this verse. I really wanted to understand it. And it took some years of meditation, prayer, and asking people and not being able to get a straight answer from anybody. What is this? Does GMO foods qualify as something that would be considered this mixed seed? Because if it is, it's a pretty serious thing. So looking at this mixed seed is the one, I mean, I could get maybe the others, although I found out later I didn't really understand the livestock breeding thing. But what is this mixed seed? And the Hebrew word is kilayim. Kilayim. Now the lexicon writers, they just got here, okay, two kinds, mixture, forbidden practice among cattle, seeds, cloth garments, and so all these things are kilayim, okay? What's the cloth garments being mixed together, the two kinds of animals being mixed together, or two kinds of seeds being mixed together. So now the word is in the dual form, and it says here dual of 3608. Okay, so in trying to understand this, 3608 come from kele, meaning imprisonment, confinement, or restraint. So the word has to do with confining, as in forcing two things together. All right? And that comes from kala, meaning to restrict or restrain, withhold, shut up, keep back, forbid. So basically holding back, restraining, or forcing two things together. So now at first I thought maybe, well, that could be hybrid seeds, you know, because the offspring of those seeds is sterile, and so you're holding back that particular fruit from being able to reproduce. But then it's actually saying a dual, so holding two things. So I don't know, this is a little confusing, and I found also the offspring of hybrid plants, like the burpee seeds you buy at Walmart, you know, that they do reproduce, they just don't reproduce very well. So I don't know that reproduction is even the issue at all. So then I thought about GMO. I mean, if GMO was actually an example of this, we're in pretty big trouble because it's everywhere. Okay, I mean, GMO is just, it's everywhere. And in the book of Deuteronomy, you shall not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seed, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. So, I mean, does Yahweh care if we eat defiled food? It seemed like he would be concerned that we would be eating defiled food. And so, are the GMO organisms out there, and there are several that are presently called genetically modified organisms, are we in violation? Are we in sin because we are eating this food that is maybe possibly defiled? So, yeah. So I was pretty alarmed at this, and I just thought, well, if it is, and I'm not sure it is, I just want to avoid it. Okay? And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. Because I wasn't perfect yet, don't get me wrong, but I tried for about 10 years, as I'm still scratching my head over this GMO thing. So I avoided the 3 C's, cottonseed, corn, and canola oil, and anything with that. And and then the soybeans. And those four plants are in a lot of food. And so our choices, especially out here in the sticks, where the Walmart's not nearly as big as the big cities, it kind of made for a tough trip to the grocery store, honestly. And I found out, then I found out that sugar also was another one that is GMO, because a lot of sugar comes from the GMO sugar beets. And that's everywhere. And so I'm like, okay. What is going on here? I can't continue to be confused. And I just kept praying and praying and praying. I asked how many people. Brother James Webb and I had a long joke about the whole thing. Somebody can tell me what EliYah means, and we even had a little thing out in front of our coffee shop as kind of a joke, as a sign he put together: a free cup of coffee if you can figure out EliYah. Anyway, we just, okay, I don't like the bizarre mixes, obviously. Fish genes with tomatoes, jellyfish with corn, and human genes mixed with corn even. They've even come out with that. There's none of those things are on the market today, okay? You don't have to worry about those things. The flavor saver died out. Really today, the only genetically modified food that you mainly want to be concerned about would be what's called the Roundup Ready corn, soybean, cottonseed, canola oil, and those things, okay? And the Roundup Ready is what happened was at the back of this chemical plant, they had this pond. And this pond had all kind of chemicals in it. And they happened to notice that there was a particular bacteria that was surviving all these chemicals. And so like, what in the world? And so they did some investigating, and they found out that this bacteria produced an enzyme which made it immune to the glyphosate, or however you say it, the Roundup. And they thought, well, if they could get that enzyme somehow to be produced in a plant and it not be harmful, then that would make it a whole lot easier for farmers to be able to spread herbicide. And because there's so many different herbicides, and then they find out later those herbicides were harmful, and then they have to switch to another kind. And for years the herbicides, they kept using different kinds, and then having to change. And so they felt like glyphosate is fairly safe, but I don't know, we're kind of finding out now it may not be. The jury may be out on that, but there's some people suing this company over the whole thing. So anyway, but the idea was they spray the field with Roundup, and then the food crop would survive and the weeds wouldn't. Okay, but in order for that to happen, how are you going to get the genetic information from a bacteria to go into, say, a corn plant? Well, it might seem like a very unnatural thing, but what I found out was it's not an unnatural thing for bacteria to go into a plant and modify its genetics, okay? And you might be very surprised, as I was, to hear that this actually happens in the wild. Scientists from Peru and Belgium have discovered that genetic modification sometimes happens quite naturally. In cultivated sweet potatoes from the Americas, Africa, and Asia and Oceania, the researchers found that naturally occurring bacteria DNA had made its way into the potato's genome. The DNA originated from Agrobacterium bacteria, a common plant pathogen already known for its ability to transfer segments of its genetic information. In fact, it is this very property that scientists have used in the past to produce genetically modified crops. Interesting, huh? So they're actually using a natural means of genetic changes to create the genetically modified crops. All right. In all 291 cultivated potato varieties, the Peruvian-Belgian research team found bacterial genes known to aid the production of plant growth hormones, so-called auxins. Okay. So you can look up this article here. So basically what man did with the genetically modified crops that we're eating food from today was they took the DNA from this bacteria they found in the back, and they transferred it to what's called an agrobacterium that can go into a plant and affect its genome. Okay, and so they transferred that bacteria genome into this agrobacterium, and then they just let it do its thing. And that bacteria would go into that particular, say, corn plant and readily enter in like it does naturally. All right. And they did this with the corn and the canola and the cotton and the soybean and the sugar beets. And so, and that's how we got the GMO corn, GMO cottonseed, GMO soybean, GMO sugar beets, canola, all these things. That's how it happened, okay? It was, they did not like go in and pull genes out of a pig and put it in a corn, you know. They just took genome from bacteria and put it in another bacteria, and the bacteria went in and did its thing. And so that it was, this idea or concept that, when you're eating food, you're also eating the DNA from bacterium is actually not unnatural or strange at all. It is something that Yahweh allowed in our world today. So I found that to be pretty fascinating, all right? Now, there are other things that's called GMO, rainbow papayas. They're from Hawaii. And crookneck squash and a very small number of zucchini. I think there was only like 10 farms as of 2019 that are GMO, but they're not GMO like, again, through putting two different kinds of plant seeds together or something like that. They are attempts to prevent disease in these particular plants. And I didn't fully understand that in completeness, okay? It's very, very technical, okay? But I found out it wasn't from putting two different kinds of seeds together. So based on the actual process of making a genetically modified organism, I can't say it's wrong, or at least I can't say that Leviticus 19:19 is actually addressing that, okay? Plants having genetic alterations by bacteria can be a natural process. It's just that man used that same natural process to make farming less expensive and a less time-consuming operation. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not into spraying our plants with glyphosate, okay? In fact, I'm not really a big fan of traditional farming methods at all. I once read this study where they took these fields, and it was all from the same, area, so they would have everything the same, okay? And they had some fields they did through traditional farming practices, using herbicides and things like that. And then there was another set of fields that they used with organic farming practices. All right, now I couldn't find this study, but it's out there. But so the conventional versus organic, and at first the conventional fields did better. They were cheaper, quicker to produce. The plants produced higher yields and made more money and whatnot, okay? But then after about 10 years or so, could be a little off on the years, the organic fields began to outperform the conventional fields. Because what was happening was the organic fields, they were using methods to enrich the soil, not through chemical means like almost every cornfield in Iowa and such, using traditional methods, they just add a bunch of ammonia to the fields, and that produces nitrogen, which and then causes the corn plants to grow. They're done, okay? Whereas in the organic method, they're not going to pump the fields with nitrogen or with ammonia. So they would enrich the soil and allow the soil itself to produce and give those plants the nitrogen, okay, and the best nutrients. And so what happened was, because the soil quality was much higher in the organic fields, the plants were healthier and therefore more drought tolerant and more likely to not be affected by weeds and things of that nature because they're strong, healthy plants. Okay, and so in the end, the organic fields were a better bargain, but it took an investment to get there, and the organic obviously is pays better per acre than conventional. But there's a lot more labor involved, no doubt, to get that thing going. So I kind of think that the chemical companies, at first they probably came in and were helpful in these years where things were difficult or whatever. They're trying to fight off these pests and kill the pests and no problem. But if you were to do organic the right way and use that same ability that man has now to understand soil compositions and pH and all these things that we have learned from scientific study, and apply that information to our organic farming practices, they actually do better than solving everything by spraying some kind of chemical. So anyway, I think that the chemical companies, even if, I don't know if they even realize it, but if they do, they're kind of, deceiving themselves or deceiving others, and, they want to make their money. Of course, they're going to try to poo-poo the conventional methods, no pun intended, conventional methods, or I should say organic methods, which use lots of fertilizer. Okay. Anyway, the question though here in trying to understand Leviticus 19:19 is whether or not the GMO foods are considered to be mixed seeds, okay, or the confinement of dual, okay. So when I think about what Yahweh said, I don't really see where he had bacteria in mind when he commanded this, because especially he himself create a world where bacteria would naturally go in to a plant and affect its DNA. So I don't think that the GMO would qualify as the two different kinds of seeds. So what actually would be a violation? Because I don't really think that, again, the GMO is two different kinds of seeds. Like you got two different kinds of animals, two different kinds of threads. There's not a cognate there. You got a bacteria and a plant. They're not, So what is a violation? I think one clear example would be putting two different kinds of seeds into the same hole. I know that when you plant a garden, you make your little divots into the ground and you drop the seed in there and you cover it. Now there's this companion farming thing where, sometimes people will take, I think it's a bean plant and a corn plant, drop it down into the same hole, cover it up. The corn plant grows up, the bean plant grows around the corn plant, and the idea is the bean plant's going to provide the nitrogen for the corn plant to produce well, while the bean plant just kind of, doesn't do very well. So that would be possibly an example. I mean, that's putting two seeds in the same place. And isn't that pretty much what when you have farm animals, the semen is called the seed. And so you have the seed from, say, let's say you got a sheep, and the male sheep are trying to breed the female sheep. And then if you have a llama, for instance, a male llama in the field, the male llama will also try to breed and probably kill the ewes as he's trying to breed. And so that's two different kinds of seeds being placed in the same location. So that might be really what we're talking about here when it comes to the mixed seeds. I've thought possibly another one, although I'm not really sure about this. Let's say you had a bunch of different kinds of seeds in your hand, okay, and you just kind of toss them out there into the garden and watch tomatoes growing up here and a squash here and a bean here and all these different things, all of this scattered throughout the whole field randomly. That would create a very chaotic harvest season, okay? Because some plants are going to mature and bear fruit before other ones do. Other plants are going to shadow other plants out. Each plant's going to be competing for space and for nutrients. And so you're talking about confusion here, okay? And so obviously the scriptures say that bestiality is confusion. And so the two different kinds of animals would be confusion. That's called kalayim in Scripture. Two different kinds of animals would also be confusion. And throwing a bunch of seeds out there and say, here, have fun, see who wins, I think would be confusion as well. So that's kind of where I've come to kalayim. And there are people out there practicing this companion stuff like this. Now, it's different if, let's say, one year you grow corn in this spot, the next year you're going to grow beans or soybeans in that spot. The soybeans will enrich the soil and give it more nitrogen, so the following year you can plant your corn. And that's actually practiced. I know when I was growing up, we had a farmer, and most farmers did this in Ohio. They would put soybeans one year, corn the next. Soybeans another year, corn the next, and they got more yield that way. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. And then they've got these other kinds of bizarre mixes, a strawberry and a grape. They don't belong together. I mean, if that's the kind of thing people are doing, that's like a llama and a sheep, okay? So that's kind of where I'm at with the kalayim.